Good morning. This is Jennifer Balanay with Coldwell Banker Realty. I am here today. I've had Miss Shanna Welsh-Levin, an attorney, before with me as a guest speaker. I'm here again because there are new questions that have been arised, and she was so gracious to take the time out of her very busy schedule to take a few minutes to educate us. And I am so grateful. So thank you, Shanna, for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Okay, so we just had a couple minutes conversation of just trying to figure out, I've got questions myself, so I don't want to hog up all the questions because I know that she's got such great information. But yesterday I was at the store and I had someone ask me a question, and I get this question often. So it was so interesting. It happened just yesterday. But the question is what's going on with all of these landlord rights with renters and rental assistance, and now with these evictions and new laws being placed? And I know October 1st marked a new timeline, so I would love for you to share a little bit about what's going on with landlord rights, and that's the big question right now. And I think it is with you as well, correct?
It is. I get calls every day. I field calls every day. We make sure that when someone calls the office, our law office, SoCal Realty Law, that we look at the whole situation and apply the law. What's happening now is that as of October 1st, parts of the California eviction moratorium expired. Some of the significant parts of it involving COVID-related rental debt, because the COVID-related rental debt period officially now was from March 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. And as of October 1st, when a tenant doesn't pay rent, it's no longer considered COVID-related rental debt. There is an interesting little issue there, because some of the law talks about rental debt that was not paid due to a COVID hardship. So even in October, if a tenant doesn't pay rent, even though that's no longer COVID-related rental debt and covered by all of the Tenant Protection Act, the COVID Tenant Protection Act, even October rent still has this element of, well, if the tenant has a COVID hardship and that caused them to not pay the rent, there are still restrictions on evicting that tenant for non-payment of rent. So during the whole moratorium up to September 30th, when a tenant did not pay rent, they are entitled to certain specific notices: a 15-day notice to pay or quit, a notice from the state of California explaining that they could pay 25% of that past due rent to maintain their tenancy, and they'll still continue to be protected as long as they pay that 25%, as well as some additions to those notices, because the law has changed and it requires different language now. And that language added advice that the tenant may be eligible for rental assistance, and the website and the phone number to apply for rental assistance, as well as a declaration that the tenant could sign and give back to the landlord stating their hardship. And in fact, the tenant is required to provide that to confirm that they have a COVID-related hardship in order to be protected by the COVID Tenant Protection Act. So on October 1st, we no longer have the formal COVID-related rental debt. So all of those notices are only required when a tenant doesn't pay when the tenant's past due rent is quote unquote COVID-related rental debt, everything prior to October 1st. On October 1st, the new notices are the old notices. So now we can do a 3-day notice to pay or quit for the October rent. But just in case that tenant still has a COVID hardship, you have to wait 20 days before you can proceed with an eviction. And you also, the landlord will have to show in court that they have applied for rental assistance, or the tenant has applied for rental assistance, and they have to either confirm that the application has been denied, or they wait 20 days and on the forms for the court, you just explain to the court that We applied, we waited 20 days, nothing happened, we're proceeding. So technically the law says that a landlord has to apply, or, and the landlord has to either show written rejection of the application or wait 20 days. And if they can show that they waited and nothing happened, then we may be able to proceed. And there's some ambiguity there. So we're being really careful to make sure that the landlords are applying, and we're still serving the notices and we're waiting the 20 days. And then we're saying, okay, look, there's some risk here. It's not entirely clear how this is going to proceed in court because this is all kind of new. This is a new phase of things. But this is the way things have been for about a year and a half now, constantly changing, constantly going to court, and just having to observe how the laws are being enforced, how the tenant attorneys are defending things, how the tenants are defending themselves, and adjusting to the situation.
Yeah. You've seen a lot of that now. That's probably primarily a big part of your business, I would gather. And we'll talk about, you've got some workshops coming up. Yeah, it's hard. So, you know, there is this rental assistance, and I know we briefly talked about this. People are having, so, you know, we've got people buying investment property, right? And, you know, other than, and I know there are things there's so many things to do on our end, like as a real estate agent, to make sure that the new landlord, or new investor is protected. But here we are in this, you know, it's such a unique time, and you get a new tenant coming in. Is there something, you know, that you would suggest? You're not seeing, I mean, I understand you are not a real estate agent, but where are we with how to protect, make sure we're doing the right thing? Is there something that you've seen, you've shared a little bit, that your past, like some of your clients are doing? How can one protect themselves?
There are a lot of things that a landlord can do, or an investor who's going into, you know, becoming a landlord can do to screen the tenants. And even though I do have a broker's license, you know, but I don't use it. I don't do property management. So I take a lot of the best advice from my really good clients who always amaze me that they can have all of these tenants and not have any problems. They're out there, you know, there are landlords who have been landlords for 20 years and could say that they've only had one problem, one eviction, or some, you know, some crazy statistic like that. And then we have landlords who have one property and they can't seem to find one good tenant. They come back constantly with problems. It's all in the screening. You take a full application, including a credit check. And in addition to just the credit check, there's an add-on for a credit check that you can get the public records relating to any court action against this tenant. And the most recent thing that I find very helpful is that some of the services are set up where the landlord fills out their part of the application and then submits the application to the tenant. And the tenant receives a link where they go into the same website and they pay for their application, for their credit report, instead of the landlord having to take the funds. And they fill out their own information, so the landlord doesn't necessarily have to be responsible for collecting and submitting the information. And then once they complete their side of it, the landlord receives the information. One caution though, even though it is very nice for the landlord to not have to collect everything and do everything, on the back end of these things, if there's a dispute or if there's the need to collect rent, past due rent, you know, get a judgment, that sort of thing, it's important for the landlord to have a social security number, and other kinds of background information. Yes. Yeah, so we can track down the tenant.
Yeah, I actually just had that situation. So as a mentor, okay. So I know I segued just a tad bit, but you give, let's talk about, you do workshops. I'm actually signed up for your next workshop, and I loved your your tagline, evictions can be scary, even for landlords. Thus the Halloween theme and the fall theme. I think I love it. It's the Thursday before Halloween, October 28th at noon. Maybe share a little bit, what is that workshop going to cover? I signed up for it already. I think it's helpful for me as a real estate agent to hear what landlord, just what some of the rights are in order to have these conversations, since I get these questions also.
Thanks, Jennifer, for mentioning that. You can sign up for the webinar at socalrealtylaw.com. SoCal, like Southern California, Realty Law. You can see it on my logo here. We are basically going to cover a lot of the stuff we're talking about today. You know, what is changing as of October 1st and what is staying the same? And what are some things that landlords can do to really get ahead of this and to be compensated for the past due rent, to spot a bad tenant, you know, and also some of the information that we have about how the courts are proceeding, how the sheriff lockouts are proceeding. So we'll try to touch on, really, if you've been to any of the prior webinars, a lot of the same topics, but what's fun about these and makes it easier for me is that I just have to change the information to adjust to the new laws.
Yeah,
you know?
Which is so helpful to get legal advice that way in your workshops. And I do want to share with you, you were highly recommended to me by someone. I personally have used you. I have referred you to clients who've had situations, not necessarily with tenants, but just maybe it was a real estate transaction or a situation that they had that needed legal advice. And I've got great testimonials. I personally vouch for you.
And
So,
Jennifer, it's a testament to you, that fact that you do come forward with those referrals, that you're out there helping the investors, helping the landlords, not just trying to sell a home and get a commission, but actually assist them with and giving them the right resources that they need to make a good investment and to really understand what it takes to be a good real estate investor. So kudos to you, because it's not every realtor who goes that extra mile to do those things.
wonderful. Thank you. I feel like I want to be a resource for people to give them information, and you have been a wonderful resource. So thank you for even taking the time just to do this. And I will make sure that I post the link to your website so they can sign up for this class. It's a free workshop, and so you don't want to miss out. I will be there. If it's okay with you, I'd like to ask if we can hop on again, maybe in the future, so we can ask questions. I like
Absolutely.
to stay up to date. Okay,
I would love to.
Wonderful. All right. Well, happy Halloween. I love your theme, and you are busy out there for sure. There's lots of questions, and I think you have lots of clients with these problems. So thank you for being a great resource and being educated on all of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
All right.
Happy Halloween to you as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.